Thanks for tuning in to this first bonus episode of the David Pidala podcast. Today I had a Zoom call with the band Seilies. The reason for this bonus episode is that I am hosting Choral Fest on August 21st, and I'm interviewing all the bands to let you get to know them before you see them play at Choral Fest live. So I don't want to talk a whole bunch. If you like the show, you want to support it, check out the merch store. Now here's my conversation with the band Seilies. So Zach and Donovan, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So before we get started with the real interview, can you just introduce yourselves and tell the audience what you do in the band?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Zach.
I'm Don.
I'm now solo. I'm Zach. I'm the drummer and backing vocalist of the band. I do like all the screams and harmonies.
Nice.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm Donovan. I play bass and some singing, not much, but some.
So multiple vocalists in this band, huh?
Yeah, we've got 3 vocalists overall. Yeah, all 3 of us do sing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right. So how and when did the band get started?
Oh, well,
We're going to go back 5 years, 6 years now.
We'll go ahead and do a quick background of before it became Seilies. It was called Almost Nothing. Formed by me and Donovan because we were in a former band that broke up.
There's like a long strain of
long story. We don't have time for that. So we reformed a band called Almost Nothing with some other friends. And then, that just kind of fell apart. So he and I held it down as a 2-piece, him on guitar, me on drums, both of us doing vocals.
Nice.
Yep. And, we started then recording what is now our first album, Tribulation is an Augmentation.
Did you record it yourselves?
No.
We recorded it with Sean Streeter of Burn United Records.
Okay.
Yep. So he helped us out with that. He also helped us write some of the music there.
Okay. Nice.
It was really, really crucial to the pretty much formative writing style that we kind of have developed with this new EP that we're releasing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that started back in 2017. We kind of had some guitarists coming in and out. Donovan had then switched to bass at that point.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then that's when we found Miguel. So Miguel joined. He became the guitarist and the main vocalist. We finished writing the first album, released it in like December of 2018, I think.
Sounds about right.
And then April of 2019, I had actually left.
Oh,
I took a break from the band. I was having a bunch of, mental issues and whatnot. So I'm like, nope, can't do this. See ya.
Yeah.
That lasted for about a month and a half, I'd say. 2 months.
That lasted
Was it
summer.
longer? Was it the whole summer? Shoot.
Yes, that was the whole summer.
Well, anyways, I'll take over from here because one day I show up to Zach's place because we were still like friends, not like obviously like it's not like we've been playing forever, so it's like you don't just like drop someone like that or anything.
High school best friend.
Yeah, exactly. And so one day I go over to his place and we're just joking around, and at that point it was pretty much impossible in the Madison area to find a drummer that meshes with us that we really that could replace him. Really, like he's hard to replace and impossible actually proven. But that day I go up and like he and I like I could tell that he was wanting to say something and I'm like, yo, we still need a drummer. Do you want to just come back? And it was one of those things like he looked at his girlfriend at the time and like they just kind of like were like, yeah. And then boom, next thing you know, he's back. And
okay.
Then from there we finished up the album. We released the album after that.
Yeah, I came back like early August of that year, and then like 2 weeks later the first single from that album dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we promoted that first album, played everywhere we could that we really could actually over those last couple of years. And then oddly enough, in December of 2019, we played, was it December or November that we played Boss? Doesn't matter.
December.
End of 2019.
December 4th.
Okay. But we played that show and we kind of knew that as we were, finishing up that show, like we were kind of going to take a step back from the performing part and just take 2020 off to write and record because we really were itching to get some of these new tracks that we're working on out.
Yep.
And so we started the recording process in beginning of 2020, like pre-pandemic. And then of course everything hit. And yeah.
Yeah, we decided to take 2020 off, and then we were forced to take 2020 off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we got really lucky then, because we were, like I said, we were planning to record anyways in some fashion in 2020. We really wanted to get new material out. And Rob Pullman, the producer that we ended up working with on the new EP, he was willing to move all of his recording equipment into our practice space, which is very spacious. It's big, like it's one of those awkwardly large places, I feel.
Okay.
And he set up shop, and we were able to record and finish writing this EP socially distanced and everything, and like being cautious of all that, because we all lived chaotic lives. We still live chaotic lives, but it was one of those things, like we did what we had to do to be safe through it all, but we still were able to accomplish what we wanted to. I mean, the timeline was a little more stretched because of everything, but it was a really cool experience. And now that things are starting to open up, I mean, we played Bratfest a couple months ago here in Madison. They did like a build your own Bratfest instead of the big festival. Okay. And we were really happy to play that. And it was kind of like I don't want to say a shock to, like, it was a shock to me to play a show again. Back up on stage, having that vibe again. Like that was just, it was surreal.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I missed it. I really missed it. We all missed it.
Yeah.
Like, being on stage is one of the things that, man, when that got taken away, that hit hard for a lot of people. That really fucked with a lot of people.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
It for sure messed with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, even like just in the world of like music, just between going to shows and playing shows, it was just such a I'm going back to culture shock, like the term shock. It was really a shock to just, I had so many tickets planned for shows in 2020. I was supposed to see Rage, Foo Fighters, like everybody. And then everything got canceled, obviously.
Yeah. But hey, it's coming back.
It is. It is.
So tell me about your band name. It's Seilies?
Seilies.
Yep,
Seilies.
Okay. So it's a palindrome, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you come up with that name?
From what I understand, you know, when I had left the band, Donovan and Miguel decided to change the name because without me, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
if I recall correctly, the band name, now that it came up to mind, the band name came up from just a random like search that Miguel had. Like we were throwing names back and forth to each other, and then it just popped, and we were both like, it was one of those like light bulb moments where it's like, Seilies, like no one had it. It doesn't really have much of a meaning in English. I think in Welsh it means like fighting or something like that. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, in Welsh it very roughly translates to hunter.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just they wanted a cool name, and Miguel wanted it to be a palindrome, and
it worked.
Just kind of came up with that, and that's what stuck.
Cool. So tell me, like, bring me back. Tell me about your first couple shows as a band with Zach in the band, and then without, and now that you're back in the band.
Well, we actually didn't perform without Zach ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it was one of those parts of our I don't want to say life that we just didn't really have anything booked. I think at that point we were working on the album, and so we just didn't really have any shows put together because we were still in that like in between. We were waiting to roll everything out with Seilies because at the time we were still known as Almost Nothing, like I said.
Gotcha.
And so we were kind of at that point, like at that crossroads of, do we bury Almost Nothing and then start completely new with Seilies? Do we transfer the songs over from Almost Nothing to Seilies? Like there were so many like variables, but where am I going with this?
Oh,
I'm trying to sound like right with it. But there were just so many variables that came up that we just didn't have anything booked. And so it honestly, like, I mean, I'm sure for Zach playing drums again was just like riding a bike, but it was like when the first time we were back in the studio together, it was seamless. Like we just meshed right away again, you know?
Nice.
I literally remember the first time I got back behind the drums at the studio, I did some like weird quad fill or whatever you want to call it. And Miguel's like, how did you do that after 4 months of not playing?
Like nothing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just do it a lot. That's what I do.
So you guys have had a lot of stage experience prior to this, right? From bands you were in before?
Yeah.
Together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with almost nothing, Zach and I went on a lot of crazy adventures.
Yeah.
And, just being a two-piece, we actually had like the opportunity. He had a very small car that we could somehow pile two people in, sometimes three, with all of our gear collectively.
Yeah.
Like having
Wow.
the guitar, the amp, his whole drum kit, all of the cymbals.
Yeah.
Like it was including merch too. I mean, that at the time we had a tiny freaking merch table.
Merch.
It was
Yeah.
literally the government filled with crappy
Right.
t-shirts. But no, it was, we've had some journeys. We've had some crazy experiences on the road. Yeah.
Lots of interstate travels and
Weird.
almost getting
dive
run off the
bars.
road by semis.
Jeez.
Do you remember one time, I think it was going down to Iowa. We were driving and there was some semi that had like a million things hanging off of the edge of it.
Mhm.
And like, I
That
didn't
was
know
going
what
to
was going on.
Clinton.
That was going to Clinton. Oh God, Clinton.
Mhm. We won't get into that.
Dude, that place. Oof, I don't want to trash out the
But-
whole city, but that we don't speak Iowa.
Mighty
Okay.
nice of you to call it a city.
Town of Iowa.
So I'm interviewing. Wow, I cannot talk. I'm interviewing you guys because you're playing at Choral Fest, and I'm hosting the event. I'm really
Yep.
excited to meet you guys. I'm really excited to see you play. So tell people, if they haven't seen you yet, what kind of sets you apart from other bands as far as music, and then how is your stage performance now compared to what it was? Like, how have you evolved?
So I feel like what sets us apart is that we have such an eclectic sound that we all listen to
Okay.
that we bring into the band. Like Donovan, he loves, bands like the White Stripes, Foo Fighters, kind of like the more bluesy rock music.
I'm more of like the old school rock kind of thing,
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
and then you guys.
you have me that loves, like I still listen to 2010s metalcore.
Dude, 2005 over here.
There you go. So like you kind of understand, like Asking Alexandria, Falling Reverse, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of that, but also like heavier metal like Gojira. I could name off a bunch of different bands, Whitechapel, all that.
Nice.
And then you got Miguel, that's Biffy Clyro, more European rock and metal.
Okay.
That Puerto Rican zest.
Yeah, with the Puerto Rican vest. Yep. I'm sure he'll love that when he hears it.
Puerto Rican zest.
So is the band just a three-piece?
Yes.
Yep, it's just the three of us. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So that leaves you with a lot of stage room then, huh?
It leaves
Yes.
Donovan with a lot of stage room.
Oh my gosh, yes.
A lot of places to fall at.
Yeah, I have bad knees because
He has a
how
habit of
adventurous
hurting
I-
himself
Yeah. I have dislocated my kneecap on stage.
twice.
It's been more than that. It's definitely been more than that.
I know
But
at least
twice, two times like that where like we ended up going to the ER afterwards.
Good
no,
Lord.
no, the second time we didn't.
No, second time you refused to go.
Yeah. Okay, so we were playing last year, or no, a couple years ago. We were playing at the Red Zone here in Madison. It was
Okay.
with Shim, formerly from Sick Puppies, and there was a point in one of our songs, "In Your Eyes." It was our debut single. There was a period there where, depending on the crowd, I would jump into the crowd and it would create a really cool atmosphere. If there was a pit, like it would be like bouncing around. Like there was just it was chaos, controlled chaos at that point.
Okay.
Well, the stage there, it's about I'd say a 2.5 foot high stage. Like it's a very low stage,
Okay.
but it's a wide stage. And I jumped down, and right after the breakdown of "In Your Eyes," I tried to do like the 1-2 step back up onto the stage, like I have many times when we've played there so many times before.
Yeah.
And it was
His
that
one step missed.
it was in the quiet part of the song, and I did not mute my bass. And so all of a sudden, it's like you hear the note, and then just boom. And that was me bass planting on stage with the bass that I had bought like 3 weeks before.
If anybody
Oh,
wants to see it, there is like a 2-second clip of it on our page.
It exists.
It does.
Okay, I'm gonna go find that right after this.
I'll send it to you. All right, I'll send it to you. It is.
Yeah,
classic.
please do that.
It's
It is
great.
so bad. But no, stage presence wise, I feel like I've changed immensely. Even like in the one show that we played with Broadfest,
Yeah.
I used to be, obviously with the injuries and whatnot, I would be the one that's running around the stage doing crazy stuff. And in 2020, my musical tastes went all sorts of directions. I've listened to some weird stuff over the last year, and so like the way I process the music on stage has definitely changed.
Okay.
So I'm not as bouncy anymore, but more controlled and like trying to like I've slowed down a little bit in my, age, but
As the youngest one of the band in his age.
I have the most gray hair.
That's because I dye my hair. But for stage presence, it kind of helps with this next album that's coming out. I do a lot more vocals, which frees up Miguel to move around more.
Okay.
Because with the first album, it was, I'd say 95% him doing vocals, and then I would just do, backing vocals and harmonies.
Okay.
But with this one, we have 5 songs on this EP that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I do probably half of the vocals.
Oh, easily.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how hard is it to play drums and sing at the same time?
Yes. It does get pretty difficult. Thankfully, I've been playing drums long enough to know that I'm not going to try to sing over like super crazy like fills and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the songs that I do sing on, like when I'm singing, it's more, I guess, like simple but filling drums.
Okay.
And then the songs that require me to be crazier, or even the choruses, I don't sing. I'm like, all right, Miguel, you take over. I can't do that. I'm gonna die.
Okay.
Fun fact, actually, speaking of that, wasn't
Speaking
it
of
with?
dying?
Well, yeah. Speaking of dying, no. The cover single of "Bad Romance" that we released.
Yep.
If I recall correctly, that was originally entirely going to be Miguel singing, and then we changed up the riff, like the pattern of the riff on the chorus or on the verses, and if you listen to it, it just doesn't match up with the vocals at all, but it matches up with drums still.
Ah.
And so Zach,
So I sing the entirety of that song. Yeah.
No, you sing
Wow.
the choruses.
No, I do.
Yeah, you do. Holy
I
cow!
do.
Yeah.
I sing the whole song.
Wow, that just shows how much I listen to my own music.
So Donovan, what made you switch from guitar to bass?
So, all right, in the
Former member.
in the transition of when we were trying to figure out what Almost Nothing was going to be when we eventually turned into Seilies, we went through a couple different guitar players here and there, or just musicians. Like Zach was trying to become more of like the front man kind of deal. I joined a band with him years ago, not knowing how to play guitar. So I was like, I'm just here for the fun. I'm learning as I go. And we had a friend of ours at the time who came in, and he was really cool at first. And it went downhill. But one of the things that he really focused on right away was, oh, I'm playing guitar because I'm better. You're going to switch to bass because you suck at guitar. And I'm like, I'm going to go swallow my pride and go buy a bass. And that's exactly what I did. And honestly, I haven't looked back. Like, I still play guitar all the time, but bass is where it's at for me.
Yeah. So do you still write on guitar? Like, do you write a lot of the music?
No, I don't do too much of the songwriting. To be completely honest, I'm more of the type that when Zach and Miguel will come together and create the magic that is pretty much the signature Seilies sound that we have kind of found, I try to fill in the gaps where I can.
Okay.
But on one of our tracks, a couple of our tracks on the new EP, you can really hear that more grungy bluesy influence coming from the bass.
Okay.
And everything else. So no, I don't do too much of the songwriting with Seilies, to be honest. But when I do write songs, like if I'm trying to just come up with something just to be creative, it's always on guitar.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
He has written some songs. It's just they haven't made on an album yet.
A couple of them.
So he does write music. It's just not released yet.
On our first album, the song Falling Out was a song called Face in the Crowd.
Yeah.
That I wrote that like years ago, and it just kind of has morphed into Falling Out, and I love it.
But cool. Miguel writes the majority of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I write the majority of the lyrics.
Okay. So like a Rush thing going on, 3-piece with drummer writing the lyrics.
Three-piece with the drummer writing the lyrics, because somehow that works. It do.
It's got to get done. So you guys are doing pretty well. You've got like 1,150-ish likes on Facebook right now?
Something like that.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So you've been around for a few years. You're doing well. You're getting some recognition. Where do you see things going from here? And where do you want them to go?
Well, we're hoping that everything just keeps going up. I think that's kind of the goal of most bands.
Yeah. In today's day and age, there's no cookie cutter way to determine success in the music industry.
Right.
And I mean, I know Zach and Miguel are in the same boat. I'm always for the experiences. I'm always down to have those cool experiences playing the venues we've never played, playing with bands that we've always wanted to play with. I mean, when we played with Shim at the Red Zone, I used to look up to Sick Puppies years ago. Like I still kind of do. Like they become great friends. But it was one of those like full circle like moments that like teenage you would have been so proud of you now. And I'm sure Zach, we've almost had a few situations like that, like with shows with the Zach on that too. So,
well, almost means it's coming soon, right?
Yeah. What was that?
Almost means it's coming soon, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, the way that Almost Nothing came about, the name actually, I'm surprised that we're talking about it, Almost Nothing as much as we are. But the band that we were in prior to that, it ended very, very sourly. And Zach and I, being the guitarist and the drummer at the time of that band, I don't want to go too far into detail of it, but we were literally left with almost nothing in terms of material, ideas. Like we really, like when that band fell apart, we really had to start over to almost nothing.
Yeah.
And that's actually exactly how we got the name. Was just one day we're joking around and boom.
Yeah.
Wow. So one more time, just so people know how to pronounce the name. It's Seilies, right?
Seilies.
Seilies, yep.
Or Seilies, however you want to pronounce it, as long as
Seilies.
you know it.
Okay, sounds good. So while we're on this topic of success, what would define success for each of you, either separately or together as the band?
I mean, I think for me, success keeps redefining itself. Because, like we've had success that we've released a full length album. We're now about to have success that we're going to release our second studio release. We've had success with playing shows with national bands like Islander, Shim, Stitched Apart. Yeah.
Kaleido, yeah.
We've had success with being able to play in 3 or 4 different states. So, it kind of keeps redefining itself to me. Where it's kind of funny that we played a show with Stitched Apart back in 2019. And there was this guy that he worked for the venue in Belvedere. And he just was adamant about like, oh, I'll get your guys' stuff up on stage. And I'm like,
that's
what
that
day. Feels like.
No, absolutely. That was a weird day for 2 reasons when we played Belvedere. So Belvedere, Illinois, it's about, I'd say 20 minutes east of Rockford. There's a venue down there called the Apollo Theater, which is, it's it's a beautiful venue, but that was we were opening for Stitched there, and that night we were the first band up, so they were just like, all right, just load right up on stage, and we're like, cool, perfect. And before we even could get the stuff out of our trailer at the time, we were in I don't even remember if we were. Yeah, we were in a trailer. I'm getting out of the car, and there are people there that are like, "Oh, Seilies, you're the first band. Let's get a picture." And we're like,
"Yeah, that was weird."
What? And then 5 minutes later, we're like, standing out there, and next thing you know, like Zach said, some guy came up and he's like, "Oh, let me grab that amp for you." And I'm like, my amp's heavy. Go for it. Go for it. That night, I did not touch my amp. I did not carry my amp on stage, off of stage, from the time it left the trailer, got on stage, and then left the stage. I didn't touch it outside of the night. It was the weirdest feeling, and I felt beyond fancy. And that night, I was successful as a musician.
Yeah.
Nice.
But on top of that, are you done with your success?
I mean, I was just gonna go into the success of the band.
Go for it. I'm still trying to formulate mine.
Okay. But yeah, as far as success with the band as a whole, I think again that it also kind of redefines itself, but it's more so the same story of like when you book a show that you've been working really hard on and then it finally comes to fruition. That's always awesome. Like we have our EP release show coming up in October that we've had to delay because of everything going on.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome once we finally get to do that. But also at the same time, we're now kind of at the point where bands, we had a day where 3 different people reached out to us for 3 different shows. and you were actually one of them that day.
Yeah.
Really?
After Broadcast,
Within the same day, we had 3 different show requests.
Yeah, like literally, okay, we left Broadfest thinking, oh, that was fun, but what's next? We didn't know what to plan for next. And then the next day we're like, well, maybe we'll put out some booking requests, and then bam, bam, bam. I was at work, so I didn't even like see them all until it's like, oh, how many shows did you guys just get us on? What? Like, it was one of those shockers. Like, it worked, you know? I'm all about it.
Well, yeah, if you guys just keep doing stuff and keep pushing the needle further and further, I mean, like you said, success is going to redefine itself because you're moving the goalpost farther and farther ahead because you're getting there. So why stop while you're at your lower goals? Keep going, right?
Yeah. So I think, you know, a very, very small fraction of success was reached by the point of, you know, people are kind of starting to know who we are and wanting us to participate in their events, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's huge to me. Like that they think that we're good enough to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we still question it.
Right. You know, I don't believe it. I'll probably never believe it, but you know,
that's one of the things.
Never ask how the show went. You always get the same answer from him. Always.
If you're not critical on yourself, then you're never going to improve, right? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, you make yourself feel like shit, but also you get better. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, that's like a very small portion of success as far as the band of like, you know, other people know us and recognize us for at least our efforts. You know.
Okay.
Cool. We suck. They know us.
So don't suck. So Donovan, let's bring it over to you now. Or do you prefer Don or Donovan?
Oddly enough, my work name is Don.
Okay.
If I'm out of work, it's Donovan.
Okay. Sounds good.
Really good tactic. You hear Don and it's like Pavlovian, like you hear that and you're like, starts work mode, you know?
Well, foaming at the mouth.
Right.
That's more like it at work.
Right. For real. But no, in terms of success for me, just like Zach said, it's always changing. It's always like whatever's on to the next thing. And it's one of those ideas, and that's kind of like big inspiration of the new EP. The term changes. Everything in life changes. Like it's one of those cases where 2 years ago, had you told Zach and I that we would be doing what we're doing nowadays, I would have not believed you. And within the band, out of the band, everything. It's like, I don't know whose life I'm living, but I'm not giving it back. But in terms of success with the band, like I said earlier, like the experiences are what make it worth it. Like it's stupid to be in the music industry having money as like the number one like focus. Like money's cool, but in today's day and age with everything going on, money's not like the end game. Like that's not, in my opinion, like the idea of like financial success.
Okay.
We could make millions of dollars for all I care, but if I'm miserable doing it, what's the point? And so
that's a good point.
The fact that I can go on stage with Zach and Miguel, who I consider brothers, and I know they do the same, and we can do what we do. We can have fun with it. We can make weird eye contact on stage and fart at each other on stage and trap people. It's one of those things like as long as you're making the most of the moment right there, you're successful.
That's awesome. So do you guys have aspirations to do this full time?
Yeah. Ultimately, yeah. That's one of those things. If the opportunity would come up, absolutely. But like I said, had you asked Zach and I where we would be 2 years ago, I would not have believed you. 3 years ago, even any time. Like it's like one of those things like that. We want to do full time, but right now, it would have to be a very, very worthwhile full time.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, money isn't everything, but if you want to do this full time, you've got to pay your bills. So
my kitty's got to eat.
Yeah.
So if full time were to be an option, you know, like we would definitely go for that. But as of right now, you know, we all do have our own separate jobs that we focus on. But yeah, if that were an option, if that were to come to fruition and be like, hey, we got this, and this all lined up for you for the rest of the year, we'd be like, all right, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Send us our way, man.
Cool.
Yeah, so,
well, this has been great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. and I'm really excited to meet you guys at Choral Fest. Before we sign off here, where can people go to find out more about you guys?
So you can find us on all social media platforms. We have a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We also have a
TikTok.
Yeah, we do have a TikTok.
Nice.
We have a link for where you can find us at solo.me. I think it's seilies.solo.me.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
It's also on our social media, so you can find it there as well. And that'll take you to a link to where you can find our music, which is on any music streaming platform that you can possibly think of.
We're on like Russian streaming sites that we don't even know.
In Soviet Russia.
Yes.
In Soviet Russia, Spotify listened to you.
No, that's Amazon.
Oh, yeah, that's in America.
Ooh, that's worldwide.
But yeah, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. So yeah, you can find us anywhere. Just look up Seilies, Seilies. Like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're definitely very active on Instagram and Facebook. So, if you want to keep up to date with daily posts, that's the place to really go and follow us.
Okay.
And again, like we got YouTube, Spotify, all of that.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to the David Pitola podcast. If you or your band is looking for a producer or mix engineer, check out sourcetrackstudio.com. I'll have a link in the show notes below. Take a listen, and if you like what you hear, send me a message, and hopefully we can work together. Don't forget to check out Choral Fest on August 21st. I'll have the details below. Thanks again.